Welcome to this week's episode of Inside the Headset presented by CoachComm. This week, we're featuring the Graduate Assistant Panel discussion from the 2023 AFCA Convention. In this discussion, panelists Fred Farrier, Justin Burke, Charles Huff, Joseph Henry, and Kenny Dillingham discuss how they began their careers as GAs and how that experience shaped them for future success. But first, a word from CoachComm.
Deuce left, check with me. If they're in quarters match, we're going to Pittsburgh or Ohio.
They're in zero.
Let's go Hippo, Seattle, wide choice. If we call the protection right, it's 6.
When a play call is the difference between winning and losing, your headset choice could be your most important decision. When the call counts, CoachComm is the only choice for clear, dependable communication. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
We got it, guys. Good job.
Now, let's get inside the headset.
Good morning. My name is Fred Farrier. As he mentioned, I'm going to moderate the panel. I'm really excited about providing this session for you guys. We have a tremendous group of men up here. Those introductions really don't do those guys justice. So as we get started, one of the first things that I'd like to do is kind of have each coach, and I'll start with myself just to kind of go as an example, but I want each coach to kind of reintroduce themselves, tell us quickly about their careers and how they got to where they are, because these guys have truly went through the ranks, as many of you will do and as I have done. There were years ago when I sat in this same seat trying to figure out how I could become a head coach, and now 25 years later, I've been fortunate enough to be at a myriad of places with a bunch of experiences, and these guys are going to give you some insight in terms of how to make decisions to best manage your career as you try to accomplish your goals in this profession and also influence the lives of young people along the way. So I'll just kind of give you a brief synopsis of my career. I actually been coaching this will be in the year 25 for me. I went to College of the Holy Cross. I was a CPA when I came out of college and decided to get into coaching. I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to join Coach Saban's staff when he was at Michigan State. Spent the 1998 seasons at Michigan State, won a bowl game, and I was at Michigan State in the transition between Coach Saban when he left Michigan State to go to LSU and everything that transpired then. But over the course of my career, I've coached at 9 universities. I've been a head coach twice at the Division II level and the Division I FCS level. I've been fortunate enough to do 4 internships with NFL teams and 1 internship with the Canadian League team. I've been able to be in the quarterback room twice in the NFL, and that's a big deal. So I've been a coordinator, I've called plays, I've been a head coach where I've called plays, and I've been a head coach where I just managed the team and spent most of my time on special teams. So I've done it a bunch of different ways. In my current capacity, I'm a running backs coach and recruiting coordinator, and I enjoy influencing our team and being the guy that the head coach can go to for answers. So find your role, find your niche, be that guy who can create answers and take stuff off of your head coach's plate. Be that guy who, when the head coach says, hey, we need this, you already have the answer. So I'm going to let each coach introduce themselves. We'll start here with Coach Burke. We'll let him quickly go through his background so you guys can really have an idea of how talented these men are and how fortunate we are to be here with them. They don't have a podium up here today, so I'm going to move around on the floor and kind of get these guys the podium and let them share their experiences with you. Please take notes. You can't pay for all the information that these guys are going to give you. And then we'll leave some time at the end for questions, and we'll get a chance to let you introduce yourselves to some of these guys. Coach Burke, go ahead.
Can you hear me, guys? Oh, yeah. All right. I'm Coach Justin Burke, currently the Associate Head Coach, Offense Coordinator at UTSA, coach tight ends. I'm uniquely qualified to be up here because 8 of my 12 years I've been a graduate assistant or a quality control. So most of my career has been in that kind of advising role. And so I played at NC State for a couple of years, got behind a kid named Russell Wilson and Mike Glennon, so I transferred back near to home at Louisville, played there, started off and on for a couple of years, and then when Coach Strong took the job at Louisville was my senior year. And so worked for him for 3 at Louisville in various roles, tight ends and receivers and quarterbacks over those 3 years. Went with him to the University of Texas. Again, various roles, and then that's where I started to work into some special teams, and I just asked. I just helped. Had no role, did not coach a position in there, but I had a office next to our special teams analyst. So us special teams guys, they love to talk about special teams. So most of the time I'm just kind of listening, trying to do my work and all that and kind of soaking things in. So when Coach Strong got the job at South Florida, he took me with him and bumped me to tight ends and special teams coordinator. I was like, all right, sounds good. I had no idea what I was doing. Got humbled the first game and continued to get humbled a lot of times, but ended up figuring it out. And then when we got let go, I got on with Coach Traylor at UTSA, worked as an analyst for the first 2 years and got bumped up last year as special teams coordinator and tight ends, and then currently offensive coordinator. So excited to be here, excited to talk to you guys, and I'll move it over to Coach Huff.
Good morning, guys and ladies. Really excited you guys are here. I'm Charles Huff. I'm the head coach at Marshall University, second year there. I started in the same seats that you guys are in. I started as a GA at Hampton University. Went from being a GA to Hampton University to Tennessee State University. Went from Tennessee State University to Vanderbilt. From Vanderbilt, I went and spent some time with the Buffalo Bills. From there, I was fortunate enough to get back into college after being let go at the Bills with Western Michigan. Then I was at Penn State for 4 years, at Mississippi State for 1, and the University of Alabama for 2. And then I got the head job here. So I definitely think you guys are doing the right things. This is an 8 o'clock session of knowledge that a lot of people are going to miss. And you guys are going to get that opportunity. Like Coach said, I sat in those seats. Being a QC at the University of Maryland, I slept on the couch for 12 months in the locker room. So I know about the grind. But I've also been in a scenario where I was lucky enough to be a position coach right out of college after I left Hampton. I was connected to a guy that was the offensive coordinator. They needed a coach that couldn't make over $20,000. And at that time, for me, that was like hitting the lottery. I was an O-line coach making $20,000 in Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, it was like heaven. I mean, Broadway does not close for those who have never been to Nashville. But what it taught me it had nothing to do with has nothing to do with how much experience you have at the time. It's what you're willing to do and how hard you're willing to work. That's really what it comes down to. And I think all of these guys up here throughout this session will be able to explain that in their own way. So thank you guys for being here. Let me know if I can do anything to help you guys continue to grow your careers as well.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph Henry. I'm currently the offensive coordinator and the O-line coach at FAMU in Tallahassee. We're right across the street from Florida State. I was born and raised in Little Rock, Arkansas. My lifelong dream was to grow up and play for the Razorbacks. I was fortunate enough to do that from 2005 to 2009. I started out as a walk-on and ended up earning a scholarship. As soon as my playing days were over, I knew that there was no opportunity for me in the NFL, so I knew I wanted to get into coaching. I was inspired to do so by my high school coaches, and I saw the opportunities that they provided, and I saw the impact that they had on my friends and myself and other students in the high school. And so I said, that's something that I want to do. It's something I feel like I was called to do. So played for Bobby Petrino my junior and senior year, and I planted a bug in his ear that, hey, I want to get into coaching. I want to coach for you. And so he tried to talk me out of it several times. I was a business major. I double majored in finance and marketing, and he tried really hard to convince me to go work behind a desk. And I said, that's not what I'm interested in doing. That's not what I want to do. I want to coach. So he was kind enough to find a spot on the staff for me. I GA'd there for 3 years, and then I got my first big boy job at UAB in 2013. Coached there for 1 year, and then I had an opportunity to go coach at Birmingham Southern, which is a Division III school in Birmingham. So I didn't have to move, but I got a new job. Coached on the opposite side of the ball. So I coached defensive line there for a year, which is if you ever have the opportunity to go make that crossover, I would strongly encourage you to take it. Don't think twice about it, but it gave me a whole new perspective on, offensive guys think they know defense until you got to teach it and coach it. So it was a great learning experience for me. So I was there for 1 year. Coach Willie Simmons had his first head coaching job in 2015 at Prairie View A&M, right outside of Houston, Texas, and he brought me with him there. So we coached there together for 3 years, and then he had an opportunity to go closer to home. He's from Gaston County, which is right outside of Tallahassee, and so he had an opportunity to go coach at FAMU in 2018, and he took me there with him. I was there for 1 season. And then I did a 3-year stint in the SEC. I coached at Mizzou in 19, Arkansas in 20, and then LSU in 21 in off-the-field roles. And then I had an opportunity. Coach Simmons was kind enough to give me a phone call and let me come back and work with him. And so I've been there for almost a full year now on my second stint as the offensive coordinator and O-line coach. I'm not your traditional O-line coach. I've coached a bunch of different positions. I've coached O-line, D-line. I've been a special teams coordinator. I've coached running backs. I've coached tight ends. And so I believe that having all these different perspectives of the game, learning it from this, learning it from that, learning the perimeter, learning the box, learning the defensive side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball, special teams side of the ball, makes you a more well-rounded individual. And I would encourage everybody here to take those opportunities to stretch yourselves and step outside of your comfort zone and do something that you might never have had a vision for. But if somebody offers you that opportunity, or you get an opportunity to go interview for that, seize the moment, take that opportunity, and you'll be impressed looking back on the ways that it stretches you and it makes you grow. Thank you all for being here.
How y'all doing? Kenny Dillingham, Arizona State. I started coaching high school ball when I was 17, tore my ACL, went from fresh JV linebackers to freshman corners to 8th grade defensive coordinator to varsity GA to freshman OC to to varsity running backs coach to varsity OC, graduated college, got my foot in the door at Arizona State, making coffee, made coffee at Arizona State, progressed to make scripts at Arizona State, progressed to become a GA at Arizona State, moved to Memphis as another GA, which people would call us crazy, but this profession is about the people, not the logo. So one thing I would tell you is don't ever chase a logo, chase the people. So I chased the person, Mike Norvell, to Memphis, born and raised in Arizona, never left a 10-mile radius, and I moved to Memphis, Tennessee to chase the people. Chased Mike, went with Mike, we had a little bit of success. What happens when you win? Good things. So 3 years later, I got to move on to Auburn, went from Auburn to Florida State, back with Mike Norvell, the people, and then one of my best friends got the head coaching job at Oregon last year, so I got to go join him, once again chasing the people until I got my dream job back here. So that's a quick summary. I think the biggest thing for me was every decision I ever made was about the people, not the place. I didn't care about the place. Place was irrelevant to me. The logo was irrelevant to me. What people could I trust and what people that I believe in would be successful, because that's what matters.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you. One of the things that is a big deal, and I'm gonna start with you, Coach Dillingham. A lot of coaches, whether they coach high school, some people transitioning careers, breaking into the college profession as a coach, whether it's as a GA, a volunteer quality control. I'd like to know, I'm gonna ask a couple coaches, but Coach Dillingham, I'd like to start with you. Tell us how you got into college coaching, kind of what you did to secure your first graduate assistant job.
I had coached high school, obviously, for 6.5, 7 years at that point. I was going to Arizona State, and I went out to a practice, a spring ball practice, and just sat there, didn't say a word, and went up and shook Mike Norvell's hand. I was scared as can be, but I did it. I was like, oh my gosh, he doesn't want to talk to me. Like, I can't go shake his hand. But I did it, shook his hand, and he said, hey, if you, anything I can do, if you want to come to meetings or practice, you're more than welcome to. And the high school I coached at was 20 minutes away. So I kind of took him up on that, and I showed up at every spring ball meeting to sit in the corner 10 minutes early, and then I would go out to practice for the rest of the spring. And I didn't say a word, I just sat in the corner, right? Nobody cares what you know. That's the biggest thing. The sooner you learn that, people don't care what you know. It's irrelevant. First thing people look for is, can they trust you, right? And are you a know-it-all? If you know too much, it's bad. Right? They want to be able to take somebody that they trust and mold them because they work hard and they're trustworthy. And I learned that at a young age, and I just sat in the corner and learned, and I got to apply that at my high school. I'd literally take the installs. I'd remember about 10% of it because it was way over my head at that time, and I would take that 10% and apply it to the high school kids that I knew that I could teach, and then go repeat, and then go repeat, and then go repeat. And a year later, he called me and said, hey, I have an entry level, pretty much, it's not a volunteer, it's, whatever that is, $150 a week type role. Do you want to do it? And obviously jumped all over it, and then kind of repeated the process. But it was, like I said, You got to commit to being unseen. I think that's the biggest thing is everybody wants to come to this convention with the coolest logo, put on Twitter the coolest logo. Everybody wants to put the coolest job title. If I can be the director of blank, 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 blank 7 titles and this is going to help me. No, it's not. What's going to help you is working really hard and doing a good job for people that you add value to. It's very, very simple. And that was my entire job there, was how can I add value? If that was getting coffee, if that was getting my foot in the door, I would sit in the corner of the room, and if the door was open, guess what I would go do? I'd go shut it. I was a high school coach, but guess what I knew? Because he told his other GA to go shut it sometimes. So what would I do if the door got opened by somebody else? I'd go shut it before the GA. As a high school coach, sitting in the corner, because it shows the initiative that I can actually get things done. So that was kind of how I got my foot in the door, was just putting in the time and not saying a word, which is kind of backwards to what most people think. It's just showing people that you care. I think that's a big piece of it, and then showing that you can add value.
Thank you. Coach Burke, you mentioned that you spent a significant part of your career as a graduate assistant. Can you talk about how you got your first graduate assistant job, and then on top of that, how you weighed the decision to take another graduate assistant job versus trying to find a full-time job at a smaller level as you chase getting where you want to be at now?
Yeah, I totally agree with Coach Dillingham there. One of the things that was big for me, the best piece of advice I ever got, was to do a great job in the job you have. And that has stuck with me for some reason. There's some sayings that have stuck with me from coaches who have been through the ringer and been through it a lot longer than I was. I was told as well not to go into coaching. I had my accounting degree and my MBA and got that done, and I haven't used it since. So that was a piece of advice I did not take. So went into this rat race. But one of the things that I got into coaching, I believed in Coach Strong and what we were doing at Louisville. I had seen, through the years, had lost a lot of games, had start to see the program being built. And kind of like what Coach was saying, I put my chips into him and won a Sugar Bowl there and had some success, had some really great quarterbacks. That's what you find, that if you have a great quarterback, it's probably a pretty good place to be at. And I've been fortunate enough to have some really good ones that I've been around, and that can't be understated. So if you can go to a program with a very good quarterback, it's probably a good place to be. And so I just went with Coach Strong because I believed in him. Haven't had a ton of opportunities, just from the outside. I was with him for 9 years, which is a long time to be with the same staff. And so one of the things that I go back and look at is just keeping your network wide. And if you're working for the same people every time, make sure that you find a way to get out there and talk to other people, see new ideas and all that. And the number one thing I would say is just make sure that you coach one with a humble spirit, but you can be at a place and you have no idea where that group of people are going to be 5 years from then. I was there, and we had a brand new, he was a high school head coach. He came in, Coach Traylor came in at the University of Texas. That second year I was there, and I was a senior offensive analyst, really the only guy that kind of knew the system because we had new coaches. And so you never know where that guy's going to be. And I get a phone call 6 years later, and he's the head coach at UTSA. And it had nothing to do with how I treated people, because at that moment in my career, I wasn't about people. I was about the work, and I was about being that know-it-all and trying to just be an expert at my craft. What I missed out on was the personal relationships of just saying hello to people in the hallway and not just putting your head down and going to work. So there is a balance there. I probably missed out on opportunities just because of the way I treated people early in my career, with an air of arrogance or just worried about the wrong things. But he was gracious enough to give me a call and give me an analyst job, and I was shocked because I was kind of a dark storm cloud guy at Texas, and he is not that. Our head coach is make sure you have energy, don't be an energy vampire, and so that was one thing I tried to. Once I left Texas, it was one of those try to see what kind of human being you want to be. And so I think that's a really interesting thing. Y'all will probably not remember what we say up here. You'll probably remember how we presented it, and that's how I feel about each job you take. How did you present yourself? How did you work? Not about what you know, it's about those people. But how do people remember you at the place you were at? And are you going to get that call 5 years later? I think that was something that I really learned from. Not necessarily a success story, but how did I fail? How did I not get that next step, that next job? Well, where did I fail? Well, it was the personal side. It was the making sure that, like Coach said, and it's simple, but it is about the people. And that's kind of how I went into it and have approached it since.
Next, I want to go to Coach Huff and Coach Henry. Coach Huff, you're a head coach at a Group of 5 school. Coach Henry, you're a coordinator at an FCS institution. Can you guys talk about how you identify and possibly interview guys to become graduate assistants, entry level, and then at your schools, it's not a major Power 5 where you have 99 other people in the building. Can you talk about different roles that people may be able to join in your program, whether it's as a graduate assistant, a volunteer, a student assistant, a quality control analyst, those different ways where people can break into getting on your staff and beginning their coaching career at the college level?
So, multifaceted question there. I think, again, echoing a couple answers that have already been said is, I think you evaluate somebody's character first. Everybody's got their resume. You're going to pass your resume out, and you're going to have your list of references on there, all right? Not one of you is going to put a person on your resume who's going to give you a negative reference, all right? Nobody's going to put, oh, yeah, this coach that fired me because I had a bad attitude. Like that just doesn't happen. So as I'm digging, as I'm trying to figure out, hey, who is this guy? What is he about? What is his heart? I'm going to try to find a connection that I have to you that may not be listed on that reference, on that resume. So somebody that I trust or somebody that I know, somebody I have a relationship with that's also going to know you so that I can, try to get that accurate picture of, hey, what does this guy bring to the table as far as his personality and his character or her character and personality. So that's one of the big things I look at. Work ethic is obviously huge because, especially at our level where our staff sizes are significantly smaller, we want you to bring a wealth of value. Got to be able to recruit. Got to be able to help if the copier's broken. Can you solve problems? Can you fix issues that arise just on a daily basis? I can't predict what's going to happen, but does this person have the initiative, like Coach Dillingham talked about? Is he going to be a go-getter and he's going to figure out a way to do it? Maybe it's on a Saturday or a Sunday and the IT department they're off. They work Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. So we can't go without the copier all weekend. Is this guy going to be able to help us by getting it fixed? To me, it's more about intangibles. It's more about the spirit of the person. It's more about the character of that person and what they can bring to the table as far as versatility and what attributes do they have that can help other parts of our program, be it in recruiting, be it in operations. Maybe you have a technology savvy background and you can help out with video. Anything that you can do outside of that traditional job responsibility adds value and adds wealth to that program, and that's really valuable on our level.
These guys are way more intellectual than me. It's really black and white with me, okay? So you want to know how to get a job for Coach Huff. One, I don't hire anybody I don't know. Okay, so you got to get to know me, and obviously I can't know all 50 people in the organization, so you got to know somebody on my staff that I trust. When I bring a person into my organization, whether it's the offensive coordinator or the defensive GA, my family's on the line. So I got to make sure that I'm surrounding my 8-year-old, my 10-year-old, my 8-month-old with right people. Now, obviously, I can't know everybody in this room, so there's an opportunity, right? Somebody on my staff you can know, somebody on my staff you can get to know. The number one way to get a job, it's the way I got a job, work camp. Go work camp. Don't worry about the price. Don't worry about how far it is. So how did I get my first job from O-line coach making $20,000 at Tennessee State to the offensive quality control at the University of Maryland? For 3 summers in a row, I drove to the University of Maryland from Tennessee to work camp. Got in my car, 89 Honda Accord, smoking all the way up there. Had to stop and put water in the radiator. Drove 13 hours, 10 hours or whatever it is from Nashville to Baltimore. Did that, worked camp, got around the coaches at Maryland, got around a guy named James Franklin, didn't ask for a job, just worked. Coached my group just like they were the all-stars. They were going to the Hall of Fame. Everybody gets to camp, and, the position coach at the school gets the A group, right? And everybody else gets the C group. Well, I tell you, that C group got coached just like they were the A group. And I coached them, and I did what I was supposed to do. I was where I was supposed to be. The meeting started at 8. Like Coach said, I was there 15 minutes early. If I was the last one to leave the field, Coach didn't have to say, hey, grab the cones, pick them up. I did all those things. Did that 3 summers in a row. In 2008, 3 days before training camp started, Maryland lost a GA or a QC. James Franklin called me. He said, I've been watching you work for three years, 3 summers. Would you be interested? That's how it started. So you got to go work camp, because anybody can hand me a resume. You guys can go down here and talk about all these pass routes that you get from Coach Dillingham and how you're going to throw the ball and blow up a defense. All that's great. We all can do that. But I want to know, can you go check class? And make sure the guy's on time. Do you know which guys you're going to have to call to make sure they're at class? Can you solve the problem before it gets to me? We know our starting D tackle doesn't like to go to class. Well, can you get him up and get him to class so he doesn't end up on the list? Those are the things that I'm looking for. Yeah, everybody can draw up plays and break down games and all that's great, but how can you solve problems? Do you know that, hey, the card stock's running out and we're going to need card stock? Those type of things. The second thing I would say that really separates guys that I hire in my program is guys that don't have a shot clock mentality. Okay, shot clock mentality means if I come work for you for a year, coach, for free, then I'm going to become your offensive coordinator. Like that's kind of how it works. Like people always ask, well, how do we get work? I don't have the resources to hire 75 people, but I'll let anybody volunteer. If you can find a way to pay for your own housing, we get 1 meal a day, obviously like everybody else. If you can find a made awake at work, you can come volunteer. You can do that with any of these guys' staffs. But just because you work for free and you do everything right for a year, when the offensive line position comes open, that doesn't guarantee that you get it. And sometimes that's how the shot clock mentality, where if I do this for a certain amount of time, well, coach, you messed up if you didn't hire me. There's so many other things that go into who you hire and when do you hire, and it has nothing to do with you individually. You may do a phenomenal job. You may be invaluable to the program, and the position that you are working with may come open. But that guy may recruit the Southeast, and you may be from Boston. Those are a lot of things that as a head coach you got to put into it. You got to balance the minority ratio. You got to balance, hey, there may be a guy in his room that if I don't have an NFL coach, he's going to transfer. So there's a lot of things that go into it. But obviously, one, working camps, getting to show who you are, how you coach, what you do. That's what I get to evaluate. And then two, if you do get in a situation, don't have a shot clock mentality. You may have to GA for 3 years. You may have to GA for 5 years. You may have to be a QC for 9 years. But ultimately, how you manage that, the relationships you make, just like these guys said, the things you do, may end up making you the head coach at Texas. May end up making you the head coach at wherever school you want to be at. But it can't be, well, I've put my time in, I should be. My other GA friend, he got hired, and he was there a GA for 6 months, and they hired him as the wideout coach. Why don't you hire me? It doesn't work that way. So if that kind of can help you, work camp and make sure you understand you may have to do whatever you're doing longer than you think you have to and to get to where you need to be.
Coach, thank you, Coach. I've been fortunate to be a head coach twice, 5 years at the Division II level and 2 at the FCS level. I'll interject a little bit here. What these guys are saying is 100% spot on. Just like Coach Huff said, there was a time in my career where every summer, me and a couple of my guys, we got in cars and we drove from every camp that we could drive to in the summertime over a 2, 3, 4 week period. I've worked every one-day camp in the MAC at least 10 times. So you get an opportunity to get in front of coaches, you get an opportunity to work, move around, hustle, set up drills, coach guys, interject kind of your twist on the part of their drills that they give you. And then you get to develop relationships because a lot of those camps don't pay. So how they pay you is they take you out to eat when camp is over. And then you get a chance to sit down and start to develop a relationship, and you can share your goals with a coach who at some point in time may need to recommend a graduate assistant. And that's how you begin to develop those relationships. If you're a high school coach and there's a college within 1 hour, call some of the coaches at that college and say, hey, coach, can I come watch practice? Call and say, hey, can I come sit in and listen on your meetings? Be around those programs. And then when they have opportunities or spots come open, you're fresh on people's minds. And somebody calls and says, hey, this guy's always around. I like how he hustles when he's around. He helps us out. He asks great questions. When I've had a chance to talk to him, he's fairly knowledgeable on football stuff and things related to the operation of a program. And now they go, hey, how about that Fred Farrier guy? He comes to practice all the time. Let's see if he's interested. He's close, boom, boom, boom. So those are a couple of different ways that you can help expose yourself to get in the door. Another way, if you are a high school coach and you work in the building, high school guys a lot of times get a chance to be recruiting coordinators. And when I go into a high school, I'm going to talk to the high school coach and I want an evaluation on guys from the high school coach. One of the best ways to begin to develop relationships with college coaches is to give honest, spot-on evaluations. I'm not looking for the guy who needs a chance. I need you to tell me about the guy who can really help me. And if I come in and I'm asking questions about a guy and he's not the right kid, he's not going to fit either my level or his personality is not going to fit with what a college coach may want, I need for you to tell me that. So just as an example, like I've had kids who I've recruited high schools and I've had kids come to my program and a kid may get in trouble. And then when I go back to that high school, I call the coach and I say, hey, I just want you to know we had this issue with your guy, boom, 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 here's what happened. And then he goes, man, he was just like that in high school. Well, why didn't you tell me that when I was recruiting him? So now if that guy asks me about a GA job, it's not happening because I can't trust his evaluation. So be spot on with your evaluations, help coaches identify guys that can really help their programs, and be honest when you tell guys, hey, this guy can help you, this guy can play, or this guy can't play. So be a great evaluator of talent because all of us have to evaluate guys when you get in our building. We're constantly evaluating guys to determine if they can play for us, if they can help us win games. Because the reality of it is that not many of us get 5 years anymore. You got to win right away in year 2, year 3. So we need to be able to get guys who fit what we do and what we believe in, and guys who can come in and buy into our programs. So be a great evaluator when you're around college coaches. Be around and work. So when you start to meet and interact with those guys who are coming in your building, recruiting your players, you begin to develop relationships with them and you let them know what your goals are. That, hey, I'd love to have an opportunity to get into college coaching. Can I come watch practice? Can I come to spring ball? Can I come sit in meetings? And then you begin to develop those relationships. But again, just like Coach Huff said, I can't put enough emphasis on the power of you guys working camps at places when you don't have the ability to get in buildings and work for people. That's how you get to know people. I did that for 20 years. I still go work as many camps as I can. I've been coaching 25 years. I still go work camps. So that's a really big part of what we do. Go ahead, Coach. Yeah, in the NFL, Coach mentioned about the minority fellowship, the Bill Walsh fellowship in the NFL. Bill Walsh, at some point in time, there was obviously a lack of minority representation at a number of levels in coaching in the NFL. So the NFL developed a program for minorities. Women are included in this now, but all ethnic minorities, to where each team, it's actually it's multifaceted now, but originally each team would bring in 2 guys, one on offense, one on defense. A lot have expanded to where they bring a guy on offense, defense, and special teams. They've expanded to where they now offer positions where somebody can come and be a minority volunteer for an entire season. So what you do is you basically, if you know somebody in the NFL, you ask them about the minority internship. Obviously, they'll need you to send them your resume, but you can also just send in your resume to the head coach at every NFL team, and then they direct it to the person who's responsible for the selection of the minority intern. So if you get in and they review your deal, they'll call you, ask you if you want to kind of do a phone interview. Originally, when they first started doing it, it was just a phone interview. When I did it in 2008, it was just a phone interview. It's progressed to where one of the last times I did it, I had to prepare a 20-minute video and PowerPoint presentation showing myself coaching in the meeting room, showing myself running drills on the field. I had to send that in. And then they actually flew me back out for an actual on-site interview with a suit and tie with a second PowerPoint presentation showing me installing plays from meeting room, playbook, individual, subgroup, team in practice, and then how it showed up in the game. So they're multifaceted in terms of how they select, but the best way is if you know somebody who coaches in the NFL, let them know you want to do it, send your resume in, and then get into that process of selection for one of those positions. Another creative way, just like all these coaches talked about, when I was at Kentucky State, we didn't have a lot of money, Division II school. So we actually brought up, I did this every year that I was at Kentucky State. It started with the NFL Players Association, but the NFL Players Association used to have a program for former NFL players where they would send coaches to Division III, Division II, and FCS programs to do an internship with those programs in the preseason. Coaches would come in the preseason, coach with you for 3 or 4 weeks. We put them in a dorm, we fed them just like we did our team. They coached for us, and then when preseason camp was over, they went back to their respective teams. And that was an opportunity to where I did it 2 years with the NFLPA, and then I just did it 2 years on my own, where I just identified a guy from different places across the country, high school coach who just wanted to come volunteer for 3 weeks in preseason camp to give us an extra body. And just like every coach up here has said, you can do that for free somewhere. We'll take all the free help we can get. I'm at an FCS place right now that I'd love to have some more people in the building that can help with recruiting evaluations, that can help us with video stuff, playbook stuff, all that kind of stuff. So there's a way, if you're ready to grind and hustle, you can find a way to get in. So what I want to do now is I'm going to transition. We're going to start talking about interviewing, identifying candidates, and I'm going to start with the two head coaches, Coach Dillingham and Coach Huff. Can you guys talk briefly about how you identify guys? How important are resumes? How much do you pay attention to that stuff? And then what do you look for in those resumes for the assistant coaches or entry-level positions that you might hire? Coach Huff and Coach Dillingham, please.
For me, I could give two craps about your resume. You can keep it. You don't have to send it. It's going to come down to, again, me knowing someone you know that has seen you work, not, what you can put on a piece of paper. And trust me, I get it. I'm not saying don't create a resume because it does carry weight at some places to kind of get your name in. But I'm not going to hire you off your resume. I'm going to hire you off of some connection to somebody I know that's seen you work. Because at the end of the day, on a Tuesday night at 11 o'clock when we're trying to break down first and second down pass pro, I don't want somebody that's got a great resume. I want somebody who's already got their role done. Want somebody who's not looking at the clock saying when we're going to get out of here. I want someone who can come up with the answers that I need or we need as a staff from your role perspective. So for me, that's kind of how it goes. I think you interview every day. I said this last night at one of the coaching sessions. When you come to these type of events, conferences, I know when I was recruiting heavy, Georgia used to have like a major recruiting conference, where they'd have every high school in Georgia or in South Georgia and all the coaches would go. Whenever you get to these events, the people you come with, get away from them. Like the people that are on your staff, and it's okay, I know everybody wants to go, have a drink or, watch the game, but get away from the people that you came with. Hang out with someone in your circle, like Coach said, another GA, another QC, another volunteer that's in your circle who you never know where they're going to be in 5 years, 10 years. The people you came with, you work with them every day. So get away from them, you know what I mean? So if you got a rival in your conference, hang out with those guys, you know what I mean? Respectfully, hang out with some other group or staff, because ultimately when things happen, all right, the first person I'm going to go to when we go to hire a GA is the coordinator. Okay, what do we need? Do you have anybody? That coordinator is going to go to the position coaches. Hey, do you guys have anybody? Recommendations. Well, then the very next person that in line is the other GAs. Do you guys have anybody that you feel comfortable bringing here, knowing how we work, knowing the grind that you guys put in, knowing the routine that you guys go through, knowing the living arrangements and all of those things? Like, you're not going to invite somebody that's going to make more work for you. So again, getting around, other GAs, other QCs is a great way to network. Ultimately, that's how you're interviewing. You're interviewing by expanding your network. You're interviewing by what you do daily. You're interviewing by the connections you can make at these type of places. Now, when I actually call you and get you on a Zoom, that's to me to see if you're confident in what you believe in. Obviously, you're not, scared because you're on the Zoom with the head coach at Arizona State, that you're actually prepared, that you can actually, like Coach Farrier said, you got some things presented, but the actual hiring of you has come way before you even knew it. So I think that's an opportunity for you guys in these type settings to make a lot of good connections.
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat what Coach just said because it was spot on, like 100%, right? We're not going to bring somebody that somebody on our staff doesn't know. So spot on. One thing I would say is, for me, one thing that was a complete deterrent was if you're an analyst, if you're a QC, if you're a GA, and I'm not 100% sure when I get on the phone with you or on a Zoom with you that you're 100% all in. Like, you talk to these people and you're like, this guy is great, he's been recommended, and then at the end of it, he asked me 5 questions on where am I going to live? How am I? What is my stipend going to be? What is this going to be? What is this going to look like? What is my exact role? And you start asking all these questions, and in my mind, right, I would have died for one of those opportunities, right? I want somebody who, if they say there's a chance, is going to hop in the car, and if I say you need to interview in person, is going to be there in the next 24 hours. Like, I don't need the person. There's too many people looking in this room who want the opportunity for the person who's going to, ask 17 questions about, is this the right job for me? Because if you're thinking about it, that's not the right job for you, right? So that would be the one thing I would say is, and then the presence. You got to have a presence about yourself. You're dealing with college kids who are going through a transition in their stage in their life where you got to be able to put your thumb down in a role where you're the bridge between player and coach. And that is a fine line. I was the bridge in high school. I was 18 coaching 16, 17-year-olds, right? So finding that fine line, but you got to have that presence about yourself on that Zoom where these coaches up here are like, man, this dude could get this kid in line. Like, he's got a presence. Like, if he tells somebody something, he's doing it. Like, almost not that you're energetic, but you got a passion about yourself. They're like, all right, he's with it. I'm good. Like, you got to leave that meeting so that person, that coach knows, okay, he can handle his business, and then leave that meeting and he wants to be here. There's no doubt about it. And I think if you do that, by the time you get on the phone, you're going to get the job because all the relationships we already talked about, that's the key.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Coach Henry and Coach Burke. Coach Henry as an offensive coordinator, Coach Burke as an associate head coach, special teams coordinator. Just like Coach Huff said, a lot of times your head coach may come to you and say, hey, who do you need? Who do you want? What do we need in this position? Can you guys talk about, in your roles as coordinators and associate head coaches, what things do you need from the GA once they're there with you? Okay, we've identified the guy. What do you need from those guys that can help you in your roles as coordinators and associate head coach to where when those guys get there, those guys and those ladies get there, they can best begin to build those relationships and build that trust? What do you need from those entry-level positions and graduate assistants when they work for you, and what do you look for in qualities?
In a word, everything. A can-do spirit, a go-getter attitude, somebody that has an ability to identify an issue before it arises, or they see it start to become an issue, and like Coach said, card stock. If there's 3 pieces left, go put the rest of the ream in there. It takes minimal effort, but it takes a sense of awareness and alertness to identify, hey, this is about to be a problem. And nobody's going to notice that you did that, Eventually they will, because they'll say this card stock never goes down. And at FAMU, we don't have magical card stock, so I know somebody's got to be putting it in there. So just, it's got to be a grinder's mentality where you're behind the scenes. You are somebody that, this is one of the things that I tried to do as I was younger, is I didn't want a coach to be there before I was there. Like, when he pulled up, you know, I wanted him to see my car in the parking lot, because he knew that I was going to be there, and he's walking in and there's something on his mind. Hey, this is what we need to work on today. I was going to be there and make myself available to get that thing done when he wanted it to be done. You know, I didn't want to, for him to get in the office and then shoot me a text, hey, this is what I want to do today, and him have to wait for me to drive in for 20 minutes like that. I wanted to make myself serviceable to him, because I never knew what was on his mind. I'd try to anticipate and try to identify those same, you know, try to put myself in his shoes and think about that. But that was one of the things that I learned early on, that I needed to be there before he got there, so that when he did get there, we were hitting the ground running, because his time was more valuable than mine, and we were going to be chasing his vision. We're going to be doing the things on his checklist that needed to be done, and so I needed to be there. My best ability at that point was my availability, and so I needed to make myself available to be there to support, which is a support staff role, right? So I needed to be able to support the things that he needed to have done.
Yeah, I think that, you know, one of the things that you look for, I think we get a little confused sometimes. It's not all about us in this room. It's really about the players. How do they interact with players? Are they willing to be the tutor that we don't necessarily have to help those kids pass a class? Are they going to make sure those kids go to class? Are they going to invest into our players? I think that's one of the number one things about our program, is that our guys who are those younger coaches, those guys who have broken in, even if you're older and you're just a volunteer on a staff. Maybe you were the offensive coordinator at a high school and you just took a leap of faith and went to go interview and be at our program and volunteer, which we've had multiple guys do that. Are you willing to humble yourself and work with our players to get those guys where they need to be? I think that's one of the biggest things. And then really how you really evaluate guys is how you do one thing is how you do everything. So are you going to put your full effort into one job that you were given and do it to the best of your ability? Because guess what? 10 years down the road, you're going to do that exact same. I'm going to go ahead and do the cliche. If you scrub the toilet, I'm sure it's been said every GA forum for the last 15 years, scrubbing toilets. So I'll go with that. If you scrub the toilet 15 years ago, you're probably going to be a pretty good offensive coordinator, because you're going through the same process, the same thing that you did to make sure that you took pride in the job that you were given. I think that's one of the biggest things, but we can't lose sight on the players. Are you a really good coach? Well, what does that take? You have to have a really great way with the players.
And now, a quick word from StatsBomb. Transform your analysis with StatsBomb at AFCA booth 864. Our intuitive platform gives you an edge by saving you hours of analysis time between games, uncovering new insights, and speeding up transfer portal assessments. It harnesses the power of our aligned tracking and event data, delivering details at 10 times the granularity of legacy suppliers. This wealth of data includes in-depth physical metrics, groundbreaking visualizations, and comes with support from our experts to ensure you can confidently make the best decisions for your team. Want to know more? See our solutions for yourself at AFCA booth 864, and let's change the game together. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Thank you. Awesome. It's kind of funny. He's exactly right. I've been coaching college football 25 years. I was giving a tour on campus last week in a dorm, showing a dorm room, and I previewed the dorm room before the kids came down, and the toilets were dirty. It was a day where there were no maintenance people on campus, and I went and got some Lysol and some stuff, and I cleaned the bathroom myself. It's just what needed to be done. And there's going to be times where you got to get some stuff done, and you got to take pride in it just like it's your own. We want guys who want to treat it like it's your own. If you walk up in front of the building and there's an empty bottle on the ground, pick it up and throw it in the trash. Don't wait for the maintenance guy to pick it up. You never know what prospect or donor or anybody who's going to walk into your building at any moment in time, and we've got to make sure we're able to present the best presentation of our program at all times. And all of us are a part of that. We can't just wait for somebody else to get it done. And as a graduate assistant, I can't stress enough the willingness to just get things done. I heard one of the coaches mention it, but one of the things that I look for in graduate assistants is availability. Availability is huge. Now, we can all say, yeah, you got to be in the building, you got to do this, you got to do that, but the attitude and your willingness to when I come to you and I say, hey, I need you to get this done real quick, there's a difference between saying, yeah, coach, I got you, or, man, you really want me to go do that? Yeah. Because if you don't go do it, I got to go do it. And I got 9,000 other things that I got to get done right now. So we're a small staff just like these guys are doing. We have recruiting weekends. I'm sending people to Party City to buy balloons. We're going to Walmart buying paper plates and napkins like I'm walking around with a shopping cart. So I want that guy who says, coach, give me the list. I'll go do that for you. You got other stuff to do. So availability and just being willing to assist in whatever way is needed is essential as a graduate assistant. I was fortunate enough to be a graduate assistant at a Big Ten program, and when I was there, listen, it was all about preparing to win the next game. And when the coaches are in there watching film and you've been there and it's been all day and you've done everything that you need to do, and at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, some light bulb goes off in the offensive line coach's head or in the defensive line coach's head, and he walks down to the GA room at 10:15 and he goes, hey, I need somebody to go in there and find this cut up of when 93 puts his right hand on the ground versus when he puts his left hand on the ground. And you've been there since 6 o'clock in the morning. We need you to jump into that and get that thing done right away. Coaches will come in and say, hey, I need you to get this done. Today is what, Monday? Can you get this done by Friday? We need the guy who takes it and gets it done in the next hour and says, here you go, coach, I'm not waiting till Friday. It's done right now. Now I'm beginning to know that I can trust on you and I can depend on you and you can get things done quickly. Because in our preparation, coaches are looking for every single scenario of any possibility of anything that can happen in the game. There's always something else that we can do. There's always something else that we can find or explore or analyze. So we need that guy who's willing, that guy or that lady who's willing to do what needs to be done whenever it needs to be done, the way it needs to get done to the best of your ability. That availability is a huge thing that we need from you. That availability and the mindset and the mentality to do it with a smile on your face. To be excited about doing it. Man, he just asked me to do this. He trusts me to do that, no matter what it is. I help the people more in my program who make Walmart runs and go get balloons for me than some of the other people because they do the stuff that nobody wants to do. They just get it done. So be that person who gets the stuff done and is available to do what needs to be done whenever it needs to be done, to where I don't have to, and a lot of coaches will tell you they don't care, but I don't want to feel bad about asking you to do something. I don't want you to make me feel bad like you got other stuff to do. I'd rather just not ask you. And then when it's time for me to recommend you for a job, I'm not recommending you for anything. So just be careful of your interactions with coaches. And just like these coaches said, you're interviewing every single day. You can go chase around whoever you want, but the people who help you get your first jobs are going to be the people that you work for every day as a graduate assistant. Those people are going to help you get your next jobs. So make sure you're aware of that and work your tails off to get that done.
Let me add one thing. See, Coach Huff will give you guys the real stuff. These guys are intellectual. Okay, so write this down. Okay, this came straight from Coach Saban, from Coach Belichick. Okay, words not to use in introductions or interviews. Okay, I don't want anybody interviewing for me that wants to come and learn. Okay, I am not running a college course. I'm looking for guys that want to come work, create value, and be a resource to the entire organization. So this is Bill Belichick trickled down. I learned this in my 2 years at Alabama when we were talking about hiring GAs, and everybody wants to be a GA at Alabama. Everybody wants to be an analyst. First thing Coach Saban told us, don't recommend me anybody who wants to come and learn. These are real lives that we're running, and I get it. Learning is a byproduct of you coming in, doing your job at a really high level, being available, being a resource, creating value for yourself. You're not going to do an internship overseas and learn about the Roman wall and all that. So if you get a chance to interview or talk to anybody that's in my circle, what you say to somebody else is totally up to you. Coach, I really just want to come and learn. I'm not hiring people to come learn. Like, our jobs go quickly, win, lose. We need everybody in the building pulling the rope in the same direction. Obviously, learning is a byproduct. You learn every day. I'm still learning. But I didn't get the job at Marshall saying, man, I'm really just interested to learn how to be a head coach. No, I'm coming with a plan to help create value for myself and everybody around me. Coach, I'm really interested in the opportunity to be a resource and a valuable piece to your organization, whatever that is. Very small, very big. Coach, I just want to come around and be a sponge and learn. Well, that's somebody who comes for a couple days. If you want to work for someone, eliminate the word learning. Learning is the byproduct of what you're going to do, whether you're working where you are or if you get to work for any one of these coaches. But what we're looking for is people that are willing to come in and work, create value for yourself through your work. Coach said be available, be a resource, figure out a way to solve problems, be a connection to the players. So eliminate the word learning, all right? Because what that tells me is you just want to be connected to me or one of these coaches just so you can say, oh, well, I got the next job because Coach Dillingham won the national championship and moved to this school, so he took me. No, Coach, I want to come work. And if that means that I got to stay at Marshall when you leave and go to the Canadian League, that's awesome, Coach. I just want to come work. I want the opportunity to create value. I want the opportunity to be a resource. I want the opportunity to be a part of your organization with what you guys are doing. Does that kind of make sense?
Thank you, Coach. I'm going to transition a little bit to career development and job selection. I'm going to start this next question. I'll start with Coach Dillingham. Coach Henry, can you guys talk about how you balance, because Coach Dillingham especially chasing people, of following people and wanting to be associated with certain people. How do you balance loyalty to a coach versus career opportunities and job advancement at different places? Like, how long do you stay and kind of how do you balance that? I'm going to stay with this guy because I trust him versus here's another opportunity for me to expand and get into a different group of people. How do you balance those two things?
I think anybody who truly, if you're investing in somebody, then you should be adding value to them. Bottom line, right? That people want people around them that add value. So if you can add value to somebody like the example I've used earlier, I think when you have an opportunity to progress your career, that person should want you to progress your career. It shouldn't be combative. If every time you go to take a job, the person above you convinces you why you shouldn't take it, then you shouldn't work for that person because that person's not looking out for you, it's looking out for them, and you're just a piece of their wheel that keeps it spinning. You need to surround yourself with people, and you need to invest in the people that want to help you be successful, right? I always tell people, like, my goal when I got into originally at Arizona State as the coffee boy was not to be the coffee boy at Arizona State. It's to be the head coach at Arizona State. So I had to do everything I could to put myself in position to get that, and I felt that was the people. But eventually that person had to help me make moves, and I had to rely on that person to kind of guide me throughout this deal. And if the person that you're relying on is not somebody who's going to help you, then that's not the person you should be helping. Because at the end of the day, the only way to be successful in football or in anything is to make the people around you better. That is it. Every day I wake up and all I used to say was, how can I make the tight end coach better? How can I make him better? Because if he gets a promotion, guess what's going to happen to me? It opens up more doors for me. And then if the OC gets a promotion, it opens up more doors for him. And then if the head coach gets a promotion, it opens up more doors for him. And then if the next guy gets a promotion, it opens up doors. And that was how I wanted to build my network, was how can I make everybody else around me get better jobs? How do I do that? Just be the very best I could be. Now in my role, it's how can I get the people around me better jobs? How can I make them better? Because if they're better, guess who's better? Me. Bottom line. So like for me, long-winded way to answer that question, it's if the people around you aren't going to help you, leave and expand your career, then why are you going to help them? You shouldn't be there. You should always be around somebody who's going to tell you the truth about the opportunities and then explain why they think you should leave or why not. I had multiple times that, somebody told me I shouldn't leave that I trusted and I didn't. Then I had opportunities where that same person said, you know what, this is a great opportunity for you. And I think loyalty, right, is not working for somebody. It's knowing that you've done everything you could for that somebody until they both know that, all right, it's time for you to progress. And I think that is the thing everybody should be searching for, is those people in this profession that actually care about the growth of your career. And that's something that I can truly say that I feel like I've done for people, is I've given them real advice, whether it's come with me or not, right, to try to help people progress. So I think that would be, my advice would be find people that you just trust that care about you, that you're just not a cog in the wheel.
So I'm going to piggyback. I completely agree with what Coach Dillingham's saying, and so here's a little anecdote to kind of illustrate that maybe. The man that I work for now, Coach Willie Simmons, is a great person and a great ball coach, husband, dad, the whole nine. I worked for him in 2018, the whole season. Worked for him 2019, spring, went to camps through the summer. We get into fall camp, and I get a phone call from Barry Odom at Missouri, and he says, hey, I want you to come work for me. Kind of puts you in between a rock and a hard place, right? I feel this sense of loyalty to Coach Simmons. We have a close personal relationship outside of football. And so he's kind enough, and he says, you know what? You need to go take that job. And it gave me confidence, and it gave me a sense of maybe affirmation for my goals and my purpose and the decisions that I need to make for myself and my family, that he gave me the opportunity to say, go. And, we stayed in touch, and we talked regularly, and we continued to build our relationship from afar. And then 3 stops later, he needs an offensive coordinator and an offensive line coach. And so he calls me back and gives me the opportunity to come back and work with him after gaining valuable experience at three different SEC programs. So I think that's a testament to his leadership capabilities, his spirit and his character, his investment in myself, and it makes me feel compelled to come back and work for him again. And so, that's just the affirmation that I needed, that I'm making the right decision. He's given me this opportunity. I think another big key to the whole puzzle, and there's kind of this enigma about, hey, how do I chase another job while still doing the job that I have here? And obviously you have to be where your feet are, and you have to bloom where you're planted. We know those sayings. But communication's huge in that whole ordeal. And there was a lot of honesty and a lot of, sometimes it's difficult conversations, sometimes they're a little uncomfortable, sometimes, but at the end of the day, through that honest communication, you know where you stand. And I certainly appreciate him, and I think that's reciprocal, that he appreciates me. As soon as I got off that phone call, he was the next phone call I made. So, hey, Coach, this opportunity has presented itself. This is, give me your opinion, give me your thoughts, tell me what you think, tell me what you feel, give me advice. You've been in my shoes, I haven't been in yours yet. What would you do? And so we had those conversations, and I appreciate him greatly for that. And so I think I'm not giving you a new point, but that's, to me, a real-life example of how that plays out.
I'm going to say one more thing on that. One thing that, me personally take pride in is I'll never offer a dude a job that I don't think it's better for his career. I won't. There's been multiple times for me where I've had a former player who maybe was at a super small school in Texas, and I'm at Florida State, and he wanted to come join me. And I said, no, this doesn't help you. You coming to join me at Florida State, I'm the OC at Florida State. You're a 23-year-old volunteer that's now going to be a GA. I'm not going to be able to hire you at my next spot. I'm not going to be able to hire you at the next spot. You're with a young offensive coordinator at the D1AA level. That dude's about to become a mid-major position coach, coordinator that can hire you. I'm not going to waste your career just because you add value to me. And I think that is super important. When the people tell you no, it doesn't always mean they don't want to hire you. Sometimes maybe it's just a good person that says, the vision of your career, this derails you. doesn't help you. And for me, I take great pride in actually trying to help people. So I think when you're in an organization, if you have an organization of people that know there's growth, right, they work harder. And I don't hire people that I don't think it's best for their career. If there's another opportunity, I want you to leave, because I know all you're going to be thinking about is, man, this coach convinced me to stay at this opportunity. Look at this dude, I could be this. I want people who want to be around, right? So, I mean, that person 3 years ago who stayed as a volunteer at a small school in Texas, instead of me hiring him at Florida State, which he wanted me to, is now the quarterback's coach at North Texas 3 years later. Great example of it's not about the place, it's about the people. And not every time somebody tells you no, is it a bad thing. Maybe they're just protecting you from what you don't know yet. So, sorry.
Thank you, Coach. Coach Burke, can you talk about, in your mind and for you, the balance between wanting to be an FBS positional coach versus taking the responsibility as a smaller level coordinator, whether it be special teams coordinator or something else, versus staying in a graduate assistant role till you can progress into a full-time role at the FBS level versus taking a Division II, Division III NAIA job and the experience that you might get there?
Yeah, I think it's good to learn from failures, right? It's good to learn from things that didn't necessarily go that way. So I remember interviewing for a Division II quarterback job, and they had just come off winning a national title. And at that point in my career, I didn't really understood that every single job is a great job. It really is. From high school to NAIA, Division III, II, Division I, NFL, every job is a great job because you get to go coach ball, right? And one of the things that I was told pretty early is go run a room. Right? As early as you can, go run a room. Go coach a room. Because it's invaluable. We'll talk about learning, right? I mean, you learn by coaching. You learn by running a room. So I turned down that job to stick with a group that I felt good with as people that I wanted to be around, because I thought it would progress that way. But I was that guy. I was the guy that I can't hire you here. And I continued to work for that. And then when we moved to a smaller level, I got bumped up. So I've been part of that. But I have turned down a D2 job when I absolutely should not have. I should have gone, I should have coached, and it would have been one of those deals where I ran a room at a younger age. But on top of that, I think whenever you make decisions, whenever you decide to take a new opportunity or stay, you cannot have any regrets. And this is one of the things my parents taught me is there are no regrets. It's only what you did with that opportunity, right? You can look back and say, I should have done this, this, and this. I should have gone here, here, and here. Well, you don't know how that's going to go. But you can damn near every single time go back and look at what you did and the opportunity you took and what you did well and what you did not do well. And that's one of the things that has always stuck with me is that there aren't any regrets. It's what you did with the job that you had, right? Whatever level. Because you got a shot, right? When you get a shot every single time that you take a job, whether it's a volunteer job, a coordinator job, or a head coaching job. You get a shot, and it's what you do with that and not looking back. And just one thing, just so everybody's clear, everybody in this room put their head down. You got to have a high level of intellectual capability to be a head coach at a tradition-rich program like Marshall, for sure. And every single one of you guys put your head down when he said taking notes. So I'm not buying that one. That one's every single guy had a lot of respect for you on that one, Coach.
Ivy League in the South.
Thank you, Coach. I'll interject a little bit here. I think it's really important to, just like Coach said, be willing to take the best opportunity that's available to you. You know, we all would love to be at a Power 5 school and make tons of money, but as you progress in your career and you want to become a head coach or you have aspirations to be a coordinator, why not get the experience at a lower level? Why not? What's wrong with being a Division III offensive coordinator? You still have 55 guys on your side of the ball. You're still running the offensive meetings. You're still hiring and evaluating coaches on a daily basis. And now, if you're fortunate enough to get back to an FBS positional job, when the offensive coordinator leaves or the defensive coordinator leaves, they can't tell you you've never done it before. They can't tell you, man, I can't afford for you to learn how to be a coordinator here if you don't have success in year one. We're fired. Well, I've done it before, Coach. I've called the plays before. So even for me personally, I absolutely have had aspirations to be a major Power 5 at that time BCS head coach. And just full transparency, obviously there's a lack of minority representation at the major colleges at the head coach level. So I've always been one to say, I'm gonna check every box to make sure that when I do get that opportunity, they can't tell me no. They can't tell me you're not qualified or you don't have this or you can't be in the selection process. So I got my master's degree. My first opportunity as a graduate assistant, I was working at a Big Ten school. Getting a master's degree really wasn't an option, but as soon as I got to a place where I could get a master's degree, I got it. Well, okay, so now there's a head coaching opportunity. We want somebody who's got coordinator experience. Okay, well, I went to a Division II school and became the offensive coordinator. We won a conference championship, won 10 games, went to a Division II bowl game, won the bowl game. So I progressed. I went to an FCS school, became an offensive coordinator, called the plays. So some search processes say we want a head coach who has head coaching experience. So I went and took a Division II head coaching job. My first 2 years, I won more games than anybody in school history. So now when I apply for a job and the qualifications are all there, prior head coaching experience, you can't tell me I've never been a head coach before. So you can get the experience, and the great thing about where I was a head coach at a Division II school. I make the same decisions that these guys make every day with a lot less resources and a lot less people. I can't just call somebody and say, hey, bring me this. I had to figure out ways to get stuff done. And to be in a position later on down the line where you do get the resources and you have that background and that expertise of finding ways to make it work, just imagine how lovely it is when you get to a place that's got tons of resources. That part is easy now. You've done this with 6 coaches. Now you got 11 full-time coaches and graduate assistants and QCs and volunteers and everybody else. Now your time and the availability of what you can do and expand what you do is tremendous. So you can gain some really, really valuable experiences by being a positional coach at a Division III school or a Division II school. When I was at a Division II school, we were at Saginaw Valley State. Our graduate assistants actually coached the position. They were graduate assistants, but because our staff was small, they actually ran their own room as graduate assistants. So they're getting the graduate assistant experience, plus they're running a room, they're creating cut-ups, they're doing all those stuff, they're coaching individual, and they had impact and input on what we were doing. So you can get some really valuable experiences at schools other than Power 5 and Group of 5 programs. I heard somebody say it last night. I'm gonna use the number. I don't know how accurate it is, but they said there's like over 600 programs across the country that play football at all the levels. There's so many opportunities out there, and if you're not fortunate enough at the moment to get a Power 5 job like your ultimate goal is, you're still impacting lives every day of people who have the ability to change the world. That's really what the goal is. We're just using football as a tool to teach life lessons. We're preparing young men to be leaders, husbands, dads, and impact the world. And we're using football as a tool. If I'm coaching at a Division III school, I'm gonna coach just as hard as if I coached at Arizona State University or Marshall University. I'm gonna coach just as hard. I'm gonna be the guy who has the answers, makes an impact, and I'm gonna be the go-to guy for my coach. If he needs something, I got the answer. I'm gonna be that everywhere I am, no matter what. And you can gain really, really valuable experience coaching at some levels to where there's not 30,000, 40,000, 80,000 people yelling at you every day telling you you're not good at your job. So you can gain some really valuable experiences at a number of places. We're going to transition to recruiting, and I'll open this one up for whoever wants to answer first. But can one of you guys talk about the value of graduate assistants and entry-level coaches in the recruiting process and what those guys can do to help, guys and ladies can do to help your program in the recruiting process? Coach Dillingham, you can start.
Yeah, that's how you get hired. It's very, very simple. You want to get hired, you got to get in the door, how we just talked about, but you get hired by recruiting. Very, very simple. How are you a good recruiter? You work hard and you're a good person. Very, very simple as well. So that's why all those categories have nothing to do with football, right? Nobody's going to hire a 26-year-old that can't recruit, because now you're just going to get killed in recruiting because you have a lack of experience. So you better be somebody who's relatable, and you better take initiative to get it done. And does that mean you're going to get credit for it all the time? No, because the best recruiters as a GA help the person above them. They don't get the credit. They do everything they can to make the person above them the recruiter of the year. And then that person above them gets promoted, and then they're like, dang, we can't lose this dude. He just signed 6 dudes. Well, now you're invaluable. If you become invaluable, you get hired. It's really that simple. When I was at Memphis, I signed 6 kids off the field as a GA, right? And this is not a special story. Probably everybody up here as a GA signed multiple people. That's how they got hired, right? If you talk to most people and you say, how did you get hired? It's going to be signing people from a GA role or an off-the-field role.
I think, just talking from a college standpoint, it's obviously the lifeblood of everything, but I'd like to go into the high school level. If you're a high school coach and want to break into college, get your kids to camp. Get as many kids as you can, whether they can play or not, get them to camp, and then you can start to really show your value in how you work with players. Do they trust you as a high school coach to get in a van and go all around the country and go all these places knowing for damn sure they're not going to get an offer at this place, but they might get an offer at the next place, right? It really shows a lot if you're a high school coach just to bring a bunch of guys, and especially if you can bring some dudes to camp, right? That's I'm just speaking from experience on our staff. Like Coach Price is exactly what he did at North Shore, right? And guess what? He got hired as a director of player personnel at UTSA, and guess what? Now he's the wide receiver coach, right? So understand there's different ways of going about it, but if you're from a high school perspective, that's how you get that done.
I'm going to switch questions, Coach Huff. I'm going to throw this one to you. Same area. Can you talk about what separates good recruiters from great recruiters from average recruiters? You've been highly successful recruiting over your career. Just talk about what goes into being a great recruiter versus just being an average recruiter.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be relentless at it. I mean, you guys probably see me texting. So we got a kid who came on a visit, and we're trying to make a decision if he gets in school. So you got to be relentless at it. I mean, and in your own realm, like Coach said, you're not going to get the credit for if this kid signs, but the GA that was responsible from getting him to point A to point B to point C when he was here on campus, to make sure his mom's door was open when the car pulled up, to make sure that he knew mom, loved barbecue chicken wings, to make sure that the lady at the restaurant didn't bring her garlic chicken wings. Those are the things that ultimately separate, the good ones from the great ones. Anybody can develop a relationship. Anybody. You go to a bar, there's going to be 10s in there for the women and 10s for the men. There's going to be 2s and 3s. Some guys are going to run right to the 2s and 3s because it's easy to develop a relationship. Some guys are going to run to the 10s because it's hard to develop a relationship with those. You got to work harder. I mean, I got to figure out when this kid comes on campus, I got to be talking to him just as much as the position coach. So ultimately, like Coach said, you can bring the position coach or the head coach some information that ultimately makes that decision. Hey, Coach, I was talking to him. He said it's down between us and Arizona State, but being close to home is really important. Well, if the kid's from West Virginia, I need to know that. So when I talk to the parents, I can tell them that it's going to cost you $600 to get to Arizona State. But if nobody knows if being close to home is important, because we just kind of go. So those are the things that you want to be a great recruiter. You got to be great at developing a relationship. You got to go a layer deeper. Anybody can get on a DM and, what's up, bro? Can't wait to see you come. I mean, there's 1,000 people that can do that. But what's ultimately going to make this decision for this kid? Is the kid's mom and dad, separated, or are they together? Is dad important? Is the uncle important? Hey, does the kid like Jordans or Adidas? Like, that stuff matters. You know what I mean? Hey, is he going anywhere else on a visit? While he's on the visit, walking around with the kid, what is he saying about the school? Man, this is really cold here. We better get him a coat. You know what I mean? These are all things that behind the scenes, like Coach said, and you're not going to get the credit. I was blessed enough to win Recruiter of the Year or whatever you call it. The GAs did all the work because I got the kid to campus and I let him go. And they made sure he had a great time at night. They made sure he was on time the next morning. They made sure he got from the pizza place back to the hotel. They came to me and said, Coach, this is what he's saying. This is what's going to make the decision. This is what his mom is saying. This is what his dad is saying. His dad's saying he's concerned about this, this, and this. So now when I sit down with the kid, I'm debunking all of their concerns, and they don't even know why. Why? Because the GAs and the QCs fed me that information. But that's how you separate yourself from being a good recruiter to a great recruiter. How do I know that? Because I did that. I did that when I was at the University of Maryland for James Franklin. I would give him the information that he needed. I'll never forget, we got to Vanderbilt and it snows, and we're sweeping the field so that you can see the logo from the press box where we're having dinner. Like, those are the things that obviously at your level you got to do. Why is that important? Well, because if you're in the press box, you want to look down and you want to see the field present well. You don't want to see the field, snow covered. That doesn't make sense. You want to be able to see the logo. You want to make sure that the walkway is salted. I've salted a lot of walkways. Penn State. How important is it that when you pull the car up, their side of the door is closest to where they got to go? Not that you came around, they got to walk around the car, get exhaust pipe smoke in their face. Like, all those little things are the things that at your level that you can do now that ultimately will help you become an elite recruiter when you get to your position coach level, wherever that is.
Coach Henry, can you address kind of the same thing, being at a FCS school, HBCU in particular? You guys have done a great job recruiting high-profile guys, being very successful in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. So just talk about how you guys, or how you approach being a great recruiter and kind of going after elite prospects and guys that can make an immediate impact in your program.
Absolutely. So it's a group effort. I mean, it truly is, the easy part is getting them onto campus. Tallahassee kind of sells itself. We want to be able to get guys on campus, and then from that point, the teamwork kicks in, and that is everybody in the organization is working in that same direction, and is, the transitions from point A to point B to point C, and the meals, and it's got to be seamless. If the recruits and their parents, if they're on campus or they're with us and they're thinking, they got dead time, they got downtime, and they're thinking, man, I wish this, or they should have done that. Our goal is to eliminate all that, to keep them engaged, to keep them occupied. And that's another layer of that relationship building, where they've got relationship. Coach Riz is sitting here. He's our director of recruiting. They got relationship with him. They got relationships with our GAs. They got relationships with our position coaches, the coordinators, the head coach. The more people that touch that person, the more people that they feel close to and comfortable with, the harder it is for them to say no. And then echoing what Coach Huff said about the relentlessness, not taking no as an answer. There's always the but. So they say no, but. Well, how do we change that no to a possibility, which then now we could change that possibility to a yes. So working through those concerns, working through the issues. And then a big piece too is identifying whether it's the uncle, the head coach, his position coach, his 7-on-7 coach, his grandparents, whoever is going to be that champion, that person's going to confide in. They're going to go to and they're going to say, listen, these are the things that I saw. This is what that person needs to trust your staff as well. And then kind of going back to the original question about, as a young coach, as a graduate assistant, as a volunteer, how do I add value on our level, quote unquote, low resource institution? You may have a recruiting area. You may have your own, and even whether you get to go out to that area or whether you just recruit it from your desk and from the telephone, but own your area. And when a question comes up and there's a kid from your school, I say you've got all of Pensacola schools, and there's a question about one of the schools in Pensacola, know the answer. And that takes, again, it's the relentlessness, it's the communication with the coaches, it's knowing your area and understanding these are the players that are around. These are the guys that we have a shot at. These are the guys that we need. If we're not taking a tight end this year, then, you probably don't need to go recruit 6 tight ends from your area. So understanding your needs and how your area fits in with the needs that your school currently has. All it is, it's attention to detail. It's building relationships with the right people, the people that are going to help make decisions and influence decisions. And then the teamwork piece, once we get them onto campus, everybody's got to work together. It's got to be a cohesive unit. It's got to be a seamless transitions. From the time they step foot on campus to the time they leave, it's a pleasant, enjoyable experience, because we've all heard it's not a 4-year decision, it's 40. There's significant weight, there's an impact with where they decide to go and where mama's going to send her baby boy. And so we got to work together as a group to be able to give her that level of comfort and security with taking him for the next 4 years of his life.
Awesome. I'm going to add one more thing to that. Just keep in mind, especially for young coaches, a lot of the full-time coaches, their time is limited. And as a graduate assistant or one of the entry-level coaches, as you assist in recruiting, it's beginning to be where a really lost resource in recruiting is the high school coach. So just like Coach Huff said, a lot of these recruiting processes are starting on Twitter and DMs and stuff like that. And you get direct access to the kid, which is good. But as a graduate assistant, just being in contact with the high school coach who's around the kid every day, they know who the champion is. They know who the decision maker is. They know the things that are really going to play into what this young man does or decides. They're going to give you the information about their personality. Is he going to stay out of trouble? Is he going to do all those other things? Whereas a lot of the people close to him, just like a highlight video, you're only going to see the good stuff on the highlight video. The high school coach, and I'm still one where when I go in high schools, I hate to go in I'm kind of telling this, but I hate to go in the front door. I sneak in through the cafeteria, and I want to go talk to the lunch lady. And you want to find somebody who will tell you exactly about a kid in the high school, go find the lunch lady or the janitor. They'll tell you, ooh, little Johnny, he's something else. Coach, he's so rude when he come in here, he don't do this, he don't do that. Or she'll go, Coach, he a good one. He is an awesome young man. The janitor and the lunch lady will tell you everything about a kid. A lot of the other people, they going to all tell you, he's great, he going to be a great player for you, he just need a chance, da-da-da-da-da. Lunch lady and the janitor are going to tell you everything about a kid. So do your research, use the high school coach as a resource, because the high school coach is around them every day, and include the high school coach in that process. And you, as a GA, can reach out to the high school coach. You can develop relationships with guys who will help you down the road. And that is beginning to become a lost resource in a lot of ways. If you are a high school coach, become that resource who can provide information to college coaches as they're evaluating guys. These are $100,000, $200,000 decisions when you're deciding to give a young man a scholarship and an opportunity to go to school for the next 4 or 5 years. They're investments that college coaches are making, and we want to make the right decisions. So we need all the help that we can get. So be a resource as a high school coach, and if you're a graduate assistant, don't forget to reach back to the high school coach to include that coach in the process. I'm going to move on to the next topic, and we'll start with this question. What are some of the approaches and ways that young coaches can become more knowledgeable and effective as football coaches in the beginning stages of their career? Coach Huff, you want to start with that one?
I think what Coach said kind of at the beginning is one. Anytime you can get some crossover on the other side of the ball, that's huge. Even when you're sitting kind of just in the GA room with the other GAs, looking at their install, looking at their, playbooks or how they're installing. Because again, I think just the base knowledge of what you usually have knowledge of the position you played, and you usually know what you were coached. But just learning other ways to teach the same thing, or learning other ways to combat the same thing. So if you're a wide receiver coach, spending time with the defensive DB GA, and what are you guys teaching your guys? What are you guys telling your guys? I think another thing is if you get in the situation where their head coach will let the offensive GAs coach the defensive scout team, or vice versa, if that makes sense. So if you're an offensive GA, if you get a chance to coach the defensive scout team, and how are you coaching those guys to play the techniques that you see on film from film study to what you translate to them either in their verbiage Or how do you get that translated? I think I evaluate that a lot. So if you're an offensive GA and you yell over there to the corner, hey, it's cover 4, you got the flat. Well, that ain't it, because the corner don't have the flat on cover 4. But if you run over there to the corner and you tell him, hey, look, you're 7 yards off on the snap of the ball, bail, keep it on top. Okay, now you can, that makes sense to me, which makes sense to that kid. I think but those are things you can do. Now, if you're in a situation where the defense coaches the defense, I still evaluate you, because now I want you to, are you talking to the DB or the receiver, whoever you're coaching, in terms that he understands? Like, you can yell out coaching terms, especially the guys on scout team, they got no clue. So, when you start yelling depth and divider, he's got no clue what that is. So you got to be able to communicate with him quickly. We practice fast. You got to communicate with him quickly to get him to give the look that you can give. The way you do that is by trying to learn both sides of the ball when you can. Obviously, you have a job to do, but if you can learn their terminology, if you can learn their techniques, now when you're coaching those players, you get a little bit wider experience knowledge, if that makes sense.
Coach Dillingham, same question.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's path is different, but I believe coaching, we alluded to it earlier, the best way to get repetition of coaching is coaching. So when you get that opportunity to go be, whether it's a high school coach or a D3 coach or D2 coach, whatever that is, take that opportunity, because there's nothing like running your own room. There is nothing like recruiting a position. There's nothing like developing your own players. I think that was a jump start to my career, was 7 years in high school. I can't get that back. Like, when I got to college, when I got my own room, it wasn't a shock to me. It wasn't weird, right? I'd been doing that for 7 years of my life. So I think for everybody in this room, it goes back to the same thing I keep saying, because if there's one thing you take from me, it's chase the people and get experience. And I would say, wherever you are, find a way to get on the field, find a way to coach, and then after you coach, if you're still not where you want to be or you want to get back to a bigger level, then go be a QC or an analyst back at that level you want to be at with some experience. So the best way to learn how to coach, simple, coach.
Coach Burke, let me add into that. Can you answer the same question and then kind of tie in the importance of including special teams in your deal?
It's shut up and listen. You want to learn? Shut up and listen. I think sometimes we don't take our own advice, right? First off, know how you learn. So for me, I learned through drawing through Visio. So that's how I learn things, right? I'll create playbooks, and if I see something that I like or what, I'll go draw it so I remember it. But you want to learn, figure out who knows what the hell they're talking about, shut your mouth, listen, take it in, and then when you earn that right to speak one day, then you can use all that knowledge that you used. I think that was big for me, and you do it no matter how far along in your career you are. If you're 8 years in and you take a new job and you're an analyst, and I didn't say a word for about 2-3 months. It was during COVID. It was all Zoom meetings, and I just sat there and I listened. It wasn't my job to talk. It was my job to intake information from all of our position coaches, from our coordinator, and then when I was asked my opinion, then I can use the knowledge that I already had with a baseline of what I was listening to, right? So just understand, I know that's shut up and listen, that sounds harsh, but it is that way, right? If you want to truly learn, humble yourself, listen to what people are talking about, right? And understand what they're trying to get across. Tell me your second part of that. Oh, special teams. Yeah, so from a special team standpoint, I had no clue what I was doing. My dad was a punter. So before I threw a football, I caught punts and got bruised up when I was an 8-year-old. That's about all I knew about special teams. So it is not, all of football is not like, you don't come out of the womb knowing what football and how to run curl flat is. You learn those things, right? You might be naturally good at math, right? You might be genetically gifted that way. But nobody in this room started with a knowledge, all right, I know how to throw a football, or I know this sport. You have to grind and you have to learn it, right? So from a special team standpoint, damn near everybody doesn't know what goes into special teams, right? Because you played an offense and a defensive position. That's, as a player, we've all been players in here for the most part, that's what you knew, right? That's what you grew up knowing. So it is a little bit easier to learn offense, defense when you go into to be a coach. From a special team standpoint, that's all foreign for the most part. Unless you were a kicker, punter, snapper, and that's all you did when you were a player, you don't come in with that knowledge, right? And that takes a lot of effort, and it takes really wanting to do that. If you don't want any part of special teams, again, let's take our own advice as coaches. What do we tell players in our programs? If you don't play special teams, you are not going to play offense, defense. Well, if you're not going to coach special teams, you're not going to coach offense or defense. So let's humble ourselves a little bit as coaches, right? We say those things. Well, it's the same exact thing for us. It's no different. So if you're willing to learn it, I'm just telling you right now, there's more opportunities out there because of people who want to do it than just have to, right? And so I think it's invaluable. The other thing that you got to understand about special teams is that you get to talk to the entire team every single day. There's only one other person gets to do that, and that's the head coach. So you get to really coach DBs. Even though you coach the tight ends, you get to coach DBs. You get to coach, right, D linemen in the punt shield. You get to reach players that you normally wouldn't if you were just the wide receiver coach or just the tight end coach. And it's invaluable. And it's invaluable to be able to be in front of the entire team, right, and try to make something that they have no clue and may not even care about interesting, right, and getting them to get them to buy in. So it's challenging, but it's one of the things that's real rewarding once you get into it, and I found a love for it through my years doing it.
Thank you, Coach. As we wind down, I'm going to leave a little bit of time at the end for a few questions, but I got two more questions. I'm going to start. I want to go with Coach Henry and Coach Huff, or Coach Henry especially, and then either Coach Huff or Coach Dillingham. But I'd like for you guys to talk about discipline within your program, the importance of discipline. Discipline can have a number of meanings, but what does discipline mean to you, and how can younger coaches assist in your implementation of discipline into your program? Coach Henry as an offensive coordinator, and then Coach Huff or Coach Dillingham as a head coach.
Yeah, so discipline is not a very sexy thing to talk about. My perspective on it is it's not something that you're doing to somebody. It's something that you're doing for that person. So, discipline at the end of the day is on the field is going to rear its ugly head at the worst possible time. And so the way you do anything is the way you do everything. I think, Coach Burke, you said that a little bit earlier, and that's something that Coach Simmons talks about all the time, whether it's discipline in your studies, whether it's discipline in the weight room, whether it's discipline in a position meeting room to put my phone up and not have it out. It's something that, as coaches, it's our responsibility really to do two things, is to confront and demand. Is to confront anytime there's a problem. A problem is something that falls short of the standard, and demand that it change. And so, to me, the discipline is a big piece of what we do as coaches, and that is coaching our young men in all facets of life and trying to teach them the way to do things from our program standpoint, whether that's in the weight room, in the classroom, in the meeting room, in practice, in a walkthrough, as we're traveling in a hotel, when you're boarding the airplane or the bus, is having discipline. In my opinion, the best way to do that is leading by example, and that is showing them through your actions. Talk is cheap. So showing them through your actions, this is how we expect things to be done. Follow me and you'll fall in line.
Sounds good.
But you're new, so I want to know what the new discipline
I think the
is.
biggest thing with discipline is consistency. Anybody can walk in and say, we're going to be there at 6 a.m. if you're late to this practice, right? That sounds all good. It's a PowerPoint, right? Discipline's consistency. And all kids want, everybody's human nature is to find a way out of something or around something. That's like human nature. If there's a shorter way to get something accomplished, everybody's going to try to figure a way out to weasel their way around something. That's everybody in the world, right? How do you remove those little cracks? And how are you so consistent that people realize there's no way around it? You're either here on time or you're not. It doesn't matter that your car broke down. You're still not here. So you're here at 6 a.m. on Saturday. Bottom line, it doesn't matter that they didn't get you your loop back. I don't care about why they didn't get you your loop back. You don't have your loop. It's very simple. If you would have got here earlier, you would have noticed you didn't have your loop. You would have got your black shorts. So I think the discipline is very, very simple. Whatever discipline you choose, you choose. It doesn't matter. It's the consistency piece that matters. And that's the challenge. And if you don't have an entire organization from GAs that when you interview, if I don't think you have the ability to have a hard conversation with somebody and going to say, go back and change your shorts, I can't hire you. Because that's the entire integrity of the program is the discipline. And the only way to have discipline is to be consistent, not just every day, but with everybody in your organization, understand what that standard looks like.
Coach, thank you, Coach. As we wind down, the last one, we're going to talk a little bit about family. I'm going to start with Coach Huff. I heard you mention kind of the breakdown of your family and your kids. Can you talk about, during your coaching career, how you've balanced family with being fully invested in your team and your career growth and development, and how you incorporate that into also being invested in your family? I heard you talk about a newborn baby and all those types of things. There's not many Division I head coaches that have young kids that age. So just talk about balancing family and managing your career and your football team.
Yeah, I would say this, as a GA or a lower level trying to get in, the first thing you got to have is perspective. One, you got to understand or have a plan or an idea. Your family comes first. Okay, so that's going to direct a lot of other things that come out of it. Okay. Second thing is your wife has to be on board. If she's not, that's okay. I'm not telling you to get a divorce. What I'm telling you is her level of commitment to what you're trying to do will allow you to chase this thing how many ever layers it may go. If she's not committed or she's not willing to move around the country, that's fine. Then you can only coach in the area that you're in, which means your opportunities may be limited, which means you may not make it to Power 5 or whatever it may be. But again, number one thing I said, your perspective, your family comes first. So if your family won't allow you to take a job in Wyoming, and then take a job in West Virginia, then take a job in Florida, then take a job in Kent, wherever that may be, then you have to understand that perspective, okay? Second thing is, when you do have your family, the person you work for or the people you work for have to understand. I think that goes back to where Coach Kenny was saying, it's about the people. If you work for a head coach or a position coach that doesn't care about his family, he ain't gonna care about your family. So again, I'm just telling you, these are things you have to understand, your expectations. If your head coach cares and understands his family, then yes, when your wife or child has an issue, yes, he's going to understand that, hey, you may have to leave the office for an hour to take your son to the doctor because your wife is, with your daughter at wherever. That may be something he understands. If he doesn't have that respect for his family, he ain't going to want you to leave. Well, Coach, my son's in the hospital. Just like Coach just said, he doesn't care. We got cut-ups that need to be made. So that's going to cause an issue. So I think, one, you got to have perspective, and you got to understand, your family comes first. Secondly, your wife or your significant other, or whoever she is, you're not going to be the head coach at Arizona State tomorrow. So don't tell her that. Like, don't do that. Don't set her up for the failure. Don't set him up for the failure. It's not going to happen. It's going to be a grind. There's going to be some times that we may be going down a dark path where I got to move to Huntington, West Virginia, and really I don't know where this is going to take me. But I believe in Coach Huff. I believe in, Coach Guidry. I believe in Coach Trickett. These guys, I believe in it. But don't tell her, yeah, a couple years I'm a GA. I'm going to be the position coach at Alabama. You're not. That's not going to happen. And then she's going to be upset in 2 years when you're still the GA at wherever you are. So you got to understand she's got to be on board. The flip side of that, you've got to understand you married her too. So if she's not on board with taking a job in Wyoming, then you can't be on board with it. It can't just be, hey, this is an opportunity for me, and you married her too. So either to two of you, just like everything else, whether you're going to eat steak or pizza, you got to have that conversation. Those are things you got to be aware of. And then the person you work for, you got to be really aware of his relationship with family and his beliefs, because it will trickle down to you.
Thank you, Coach. As we wind down, I want to allow each coach to offer a parting comment, thought, just piece of advice as these guys and these ladies chase their career, what parting words would you leave them with as we wrap this session up? Coach Dillingham, I'll start with you.
I'll just say chase the people, not the place. Work hard. Add value. That's it. If you add enough value, you'll get hired. Make somebody hire you. It is not my job to hire you. It is your job to make me hire you. That's simple as that. If you add so much value to this program, other people are going to see it and they're going to try to hire you. And then the only way I can keep you is to hire you. It's never somebody's job to hire you. It's your job to be hired. So if you don't get hired by somebody, have a self-reflection of why not. Don't look at them and say, man, that was my dude. I worked for him for 3 years. Say, dang, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? Man, he needed a Florida recruiter, and I spent 3 years not recruiting Florida when I could have because I was off the field. I could have tapped into those relationships, and it came back to bite me. That's what I would leave you with. Add value, be a good person, chase the people.
Yeah, I think what I said earlier, the biggest thing, one, just have respect for the job, right? Like I said, every job is a great job because it's your shot. Right, so do a great job in the job that you have. I mean, that I always go back to that. Right, be high character. Right, just do as much as you can where you're at. If you don't have a family, take those early years to get as much information as you can and work as hard as you can. So when you do have that family, you can be efficient and get home every once in a while. Right. So from a standpoint of that, it's all about people and how did you work for those people and how did you leave the program, right? When you left somewhere, was there a void there? How are they going to remember you 5 years down the road when they get their shot? Are they going to hire you because of the person you were or the worker you were? Just understand how you see yourself is how everybody else will, right? So from the very get-go in your career, like everything else, everything matters, right? So do a great job and you have and make sure people, like you said, are forced to hire you.
Coach Henry.
I think two things. One, know your why, and be able to articulate on that and the steps that you take and the path that you choose. That always needs to be the center of it. And then secondly, I'd say enjoy the journey. You know, there are good days and there are bad days, but take the bad ones with the good ones, and then learn as the course of that journey takes its progress. Stack those lessons that you learned. You know, we all learn a lot better from failure than we do from success. So learn from that failure, commit to not making the same mistake. Eventually that wound will scar up and you'll be better for it. So two things I'd say is know your why and then enjoy the journey.
Coach Huff.
First of all, let me say, when I leave here, I'm not running away from you guys. I have an interview, so don't think I'm one of these guys that can't be talked to. Hit me up on Twitter at Coach Huff. You can get to me. If I give you my phone number, I'm not going to answer because I don't have that kind of time. But I will respond on Twitter when I'm sitting on the toilet or riding in the car. I will respond. I'm a real person, be honest with you. The one thing I would leave you with, told you I'm real. I'm not an intellectual. It's either black or white. The one thing I will leave you with is don't have a shot clock mentality in the role you're in. If I told everybody in here right now you were going to be a GA for 10 years in a row and it was going to be awful and you were going to grind and you were going to fight for 10 years and then you were going to be the head coach of Georgia, everybody would sign up for it. And that's really what it is. You just don't know what the outcome is going to be. So don't put a shot clock in your head of, hey, I have to be a position coach in a year, or I have to be out of this role next year, or I'm not going to, because what it does is it forces you to make bad decisions. And bad decisions are going with bad people, taking a job that really doesn't move the needle, it moves your logo, putting yourself in a situation where there is no opportunity for growth. So don't have a shot clock. If you got to be a GA for 10 years, QC for 10 years, be that. Because ultimately it's about what are you doing in that role when you're there. And I've seen a lot of guys who have made decisions based on, well, I've been in this position for X amount of time, and they made decisions that didn't benefit them, their career, or help them move. So be around good people. Don't have a shot clock. If the position is a year, great. If it's 6 years, great. If it's 2 years, great. Whatever it is, ultimately, if you do all the things these coaches are saying, you're going to get to where you want to go. But you can't get there on your time because there's so many other things that you have zero control over, And it doesn't mean you're not doing your job well. There's just a lot of other pieces that go with it that ultimately affect you. So thank you.
As we wrap up, I want to just leave you with one thought. This profession is an awesome profession, and you have the ability to impact young people. Chase your dreams, become an asset to your programs and to your head coach, but don't forget to make an impact on the young people that you lead every single day. You're creating the next leaders for our country. You're creating the next head coaches. You're creating the next people that are going to leave an impact, and to have the ability to shape someone's thoughts and their processes is an important role. The reward is when a young man or young lady call you 20 years from now and they say, Coach, you made an impact on my life that I use today. You're going to forget the touchdowns, you're going to forget the first downs, you're going to forget the interceptions, but don't forget that we're all trying to impact young people. We're using football as a tool to do it. Be available, hustle, go through the grind, embrace the process. The same thing we tell the players. You got to embrace the process of being a GA. You got to embrace the process of being a young coach who's doing all those things to make all of these coaches' jobs easier. Be that person who takes the load off of them and gets the stuff done. Get it done as quickly as possible to the best of your ability and get it to them. Make an impact every day. Don't forget to use your PDS codes, get your credit for this stuff, make an impact on young people. We appreciate you being here today. A few of these guys will stay around. They won't be around for a long time. I know Coach Huff has got to go. I'll hang out and be around, but get involved in the AFCA, join the committee, get around to these sessions, find a way to make yourself better and find a way to make yourself an important part of whatever program you're at, and just trust the process. Work hard, do good things, and your reward will come. You'll get your opportunity. Just be ready when it comes. All right? Have a great convention, and thank you guys for coming.
CoachComm has been delivering tough headsets for tough teams for more than 31 years. It's why 97% of FBS teams and thousands of high schools across the country rely on CoachComm. Get the best for your team. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm. If you'd like to learn more about this week's episode, head over to AFCA.com. There, you can access every episode and find corresponding show notes. Remember, you can catch every episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm, on wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. While you're there, we'd love for you to take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Your feedback helps us improve and grow. Keep up with the latest news by following us on social media. Connect with us at Inside the Headset, and remember to tag us when you share your favorite episodes. For more updates on all things AFCA, be sure to follow the @WeAreAFCA social media accounts. If you're not a part of the AFCA community yet, visit AFCA.com to join thousands of NFL, college, and high school coaches nationwide and across the globe. Elevate your coaching game with an AFCA membership. You'll gain exclusive access to the annual AFCA convention, magazine, digital library, and AFCA Insider email. Stay up to date with the latest stories and news on the AFCA website. More than just a convention, the AFCA offers continuous education, guidance, networking, and more. Celebrate the past and shape the future with the AFCA. It's about fostering exceptional coaches who create outstanding teams and even better individuals. Invest in your skills and make a lasting impact today by engaging with the AFCA. Your journey starts here.